Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make no art style deep minimal house, sort of in the style of like Toman, Rossi, Sidney, Charles, ANOTR, this style of stuff. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available. Let's dive in. Alright, so, first thing that we have up here will be all these synth stabs. And you can see, there's a few different styles of them here, but I want to right off the bat just talk about, like, if you notice how much stuff is happening, there's kind of like two groups going on here, because we have these two doing call and response with each other. Then we also have these two doing call and response with each other. And so, like, either one of these two little grooves that I've shown you could kind of be its own thing in some tracks, but I've noticed with this style, you're going to need a bit more different grooves happening. So, like, having multiple stabs doing call and response like this, even if you would think they might clash, they really don't, because they're all in key with each other. But you can hear, that's what creates that kind of, like, just constant, repetitive, and very full-sounding groove there. It's just having multiple different stabs like this. So in this case, it's 4 of them. Then on top of that, we also have these little bloops. And then we have these, like, 303 style synth stabs. So all these things are going to come together. And again, like, you know, if we just have, maybe, let's say we'll just do like these. You know, the track has a lot less energy compared to having all this different stuff going on. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. And I'll break these down. So the 303, this first one, you can see it just plays like that. Just once every 2 bars. And this is just a saw wave with a bandpass filter. I've got an envelope as well as the sign shaper. I have an LFO on the filter cutoff, just moving it around. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for inside of the synth. Then we just have some echo, and then a bit of saturation. You can see we've got the wave shaper there, and some overdrive. So here's without the saturator. Then with it. Then with the overdrive. So it just kind of fills the whole thing out. Then we have these stab samples. So these are made just using audio samples. You can see this one I shortened. This one is, yeah, you can see I pitched that up a little bit. It's being high pass. And then those are just playing off each other. The idea here is, again, like, we're creating a groove between these two things where it's call and response. We have this first one. And then that second one comes in right after to sort of respond to it. Then we have the FM stab, which is part of this little groove. And so, yeah, so the way this FM stab is being made, it's just playing this A minor chord. That's the key that we're in, is A minor. So you can see, like, it's A, and then this is just a basic A minor chord, and then this stuff here, you can see, it's just the 4th of A minor, because it's D, and then another A up there, and then we have an E as well, just playing the 5th. So it's a pretty simple little groove, you know, very simple in terms of notes, but it creates this nice little riff there. And the sound with this one is this pretty simple FM sound. So we just have 2 sine waves here, an octave apart. I've got, yeah, you can see kind of like that more plucky envelope on them. And then this low pass filter isn't doing anything. But then it's just going through a bit of echo, a bit of drum bus, and then a high pass filter to cut out the low end. And that's that FM stab. And then responding to that one, we have the stab sample. So what's happening is it's this one sample inside of a sampler here. And then we have a low pass filter, which is being modulated. We have an envelope on there. And then we also have the filter cutoff being moved using the LFO here. So that's how you hear that kind of like boom, 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 like picking up in intensity there. That's what that's doing. Then we have this really short reverb on there. Then we have some drum bus and a high pass filter. Then we have, the bloops are pretty simple. This is one of those things that's really going to seem like a background element. Like, you're really not going to notice it so much right up front. But if I turn it off, you can see something's missing from the groove. And so these are just these more kind of background percussions, just all three inside of this drum rack here with a bit of a high pass filter. And then the last stab that we have here is the synth stab. So this is just playing some different notes in there. If I turn this one off, and then I'll turn it on. So you can hear it's just kind of bouncing in and out of the groove, you know, just adding a little bit more groove here and there with some different notes. It's just playing one note, just A, but I have it playing kind of random. Like, I just sort of threw it in a bunch of different 16th notes here and then kind of saw what happened. And then for the sound, this is made with analog. It's 2 saw waves going into a bandpass filter with an envelope on it as well as an LFO. So actually very similar to the 303 that I showed you. And then we have the amp envelope set like this. And there's the LFO. You can see it's on the noise setting, so it's kind of random. And then we just have a bit of reverb, just like a little bit, some drum bus, and then a high pass filter. And yeah, that's it for the synth stabs. So again, like, not actually that hard to make. Each one is pretty simple when we break them down, but it really just comes down to like getting enough of them in there, having that call and response, and then having a few different grooves happening that can play off of each other to make the track really exciting. The next thing we have here is this kick. Now as you can hear, this is a very like 909 style kick, and you'll also see it doesn't have any processing on it. It's completely dry. So I did this, it's also not even in any group with any group processing or anything like that. So I did this just to show you guys like what's possible. Like, you know, you really don't need all this extra stuff. I've been guilty of it before, you know, using tons of drum bus on the kick and all that kind of stuff, but really like, if you just have a really good, fat 909 kick, it's going to work in the style. You're not going to need a whole lot of extra stuff on it. You know, typically, if you're putting a bunch of extra stuff on it, maybe your original sample isn't the best one to use. You can hear this just sits right on top of the mix without having to do any extra stuff. And then we have the bassline. So if you'll notice, it's only using 3 notes. We're using A, C, and E. So it's literally just the most basic notes from an A minor chord. We have the root note, a minor third, and then the 5th right there. So just having those like really simple voices like that works really well in this style. You know, you don't want to go too crazy with the bass line. Now, you also notice there's all these little low octaves here. Those are just kind of in there to add a bit of groove. Like if I play it with the kick, you can really hear. Yeah, they just add a little bit more groove and movement to the track. Now, for the sound, it's made with 2 layers. We have our sub bass, and then this bass. So this bass is just in there for like a bit more mid-range. If I turn it off, and then on again, you'll notice it just adds that kind of fullness to it that you don't get with just the sub. So yeah, with the sub, it's just 3 sine waves here inside of operator, all at the same octave. Pretty simple. And then I just have an envelope on this filter here, as well as a sine shaper, just fattening it up. And then for this bass, it's just 2 saw waves going into a low pass filter. A little bit of a pluck on there with the envelope, you can see. The amp envelope's like that. And then we have a high pass filter on this one, because you don't want this one to have too much low end, or else it's going to clash with the sub. And then on both of those at the same time, we have a bit of drum bus, which really helps to glue them together. It kind of fills in the space harmonically between these two to make it really fat and really big and full sounding. Then we have a compressor, which is just sidechaining this to the kick. And then finally just an EQ8, which is cutting out a bit of room for the kick. And that's it for the bass. So again, if you have a really good and powerful and full sounding kick and bass line, you don't actually need to do too much processing on them, and you're not even going to need to do any group processing to them either. After that we have the clap, which is 2 layers. So we have this one, and then this one. So this one's more of like a smack, like just a, and this one is more of like a mid-rangey, like. And then when you put them together, you can see you really get like the best of both worlds. And this is another one of those things where you're not going to need too much processing. These are dry, but it's just because it's two really good samples being played side by side. Like, they don't need any processing. They just need to be turned up to the right level in the mix. And then it's going to sit there really well already. Then after that, we have the open hi-hat. And so this is your sort of classic deep minimal house style of hi-hat, where basically you take like a bigger 909 hi-hat like this. That's the original sample you can hear. You know, it's a bit of like a longer, more standard open hi-hat, and then you just shorten it. And the way that I do this is using the amplitude envelope here. You can also do this with fades, but the amplitude envelope is a nice way to do it. And you can hear, you just get that really quick, like, where it still sounds like a 909 hi-hat. It's still that classic sound that everybody knows from all the dance music that's used it for so long. But it's kind of doing something new with it. I'm making it a little bit more fresh for the current generation. And this, the only processing on this is just a short reverb. There's without that. And with it. You can see, as subtle as that is, it's really important because it just kind of puts it into the right space where it's going to fit right in the groove. Another thing is, you'll see we have this hi-hats group here, and then I have the open hi-hat on its own. We've also kind of done that with the percussion, where we have a percussion group and then the claps on their own. So for these sort of like main right up front drums, I'm learning that like just keeping them on their own and just make it sound really good like that without having to have a bunch of group processing and all that kind of stuff. Just with the main drums, like the kick and the clap and the hi-hat. Ultimately, that's the best way to make these like right up front in the mix, and then we just put this stuff in. You know, and it all fits in a little bit better that way. So that's why I'm doing it that way. But yeah, then we have the percussion. And this kind of goes back to what I was doing with the synth stabs, where it's like, you can see we have a few different things doing call and response with each other. Like, these two are doing groove. These two are doing something. And then even like that percussion. So it's like, it's just a bunch of different sounds that are talking to each other and kind of like calling and responding to each other, I guess you would say. And that's really how you want to build it up. So I recommend start with a simple groove, just get two sounds, make them do a little groove together. Then you can throw in a third one, and then you can throw in a fourth one. And next thing you know, you have like 4 or 5 or 6 of these, and it can kind of fill it out. And then on top of that, we also have a shaker loop. So just kind of like, yeah, you can see adding that live shaker. This is being sidechained to the kick. And then we also have this noise percussion, which kind of exists in the same place as the synth stab. We can hear it's just kind of constantly going, you know, a bunch of different extra notes just adding to the groove here. And with this one, we just have a bit of white noise and then a bandpass filter with an envelope on it. So that's what makes it kind of more punchy and more like a percussion. And then I just have an LFO on that bandpass, just kind of like slowly moving it around so that it's constantly changing and evolving through the track. And then we just have a little bit of drum bus on that to beef it up. It makes it feel a little bit more like a real percussion and less like a synth. And then you can see on the group of percussion, we don't have anything else. Then we just have these hi-hats, which you can see are just going through a little bit of EQ. So these are just like the main hi-hats in the track. You can hear we have this one kind of doubling up what that main hi-hat is doing. And yeah, those are just all in there playing side by side. And the last thing we have down here is just this glitch noise, which this is actually the glitch noise that I use at the beginning of every video, so fun fact. Now you guys have it. And then I also have this little vocal down here. And as you can see, you know, it's really simple. It's just this little phrase. I've got it going through a little bit of reverb and some drum bus to fatten it up and kind of give it a more like analog warm texture. Then I have an EQ8, which is cutting out the lows and boosting the highs a little bit. And yeah, it's a pretty simple vocal. It's really just about getting it to fit into the rhythm, like not just dropping it on the one. Like obviously you could do that, but it sounds a lot cooler if you go like it kind of bounces off of the beat like that. So that's the idea with that. And then over here I just did that little, just taking that little snippet from the beginning of the vocal, and yeah. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much for everybody who's been supporting these packs recently, guys. It really helps keep me going and keep supporting me so I can keep bringing you guys new videos every single day. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.